last year, the authority took a national level exercise, and emanating from that exercise, there is a lot of feedback. It is also true that every time there is an intervention in form of a project, in form of a program, there is so much post-project or post-program issues that arise that need to be spoken to. Over the previous days, we have received a lot of feedback across very many platforms of the citizens asking questions about the modus operandi of how the project was delivered. And they are right, because this project was very much theirs as much as it was a project for the government and for Nira to add to that. First of all, we want to give an update on what impact that the project brought. Ladies and gentlemen, before we started on all the activities that led to the project, the National Register had only covered 59.7% of the population of this country. To this date, the National Register now has 74.9% of the population covered, which is further testament of the impact and the value addition that has come with this project and how much we have infiltrated this country, making it possible for people to be identified, but also in effect have the ability to access services across this country. Particularly for our concern this morning, the questions that we've been hearing revolve around three major elements that I want to clarify on. There have been questions about the project staffing. There have been questions about the kits and the utilization of those equipment, but also there have been particular questions about how we are managing the process of card issuance. I want to begin with project staffing and deployment. The country, through this mass project, had expected to utilize 13,787 project staff. And I want us to be very clear about that. Project staff means that these were people that were going to be co-opted to support the National Identification and Registration Authority in the period of the project. Interviews were carried out, and I'm very sure that many of you did take part of this exercise and even monitored it. As a result, 10,401 were recruited and duly deployed after training. As the project moved on, we ended up with 9,131 staff, a reflection of 86% of the recruited are the ones that kept with us. What happened? On appointment and deployment, other people went and looked at the task at hand and said, this is not for me. I will not manage this job. Either maybe we cannot tell they were threatened by the magnitude of the task or by the demands of the job. Other people equally fell off for other reasons or finding better opportunities, well aware that this country has got free movement of factors of production, so I will take up a job today, and when a better opportunity comes, then the person is able to leave that job and go to another. But it is also true that some people got disciplinary issues, and as you have been monitoring through the presser, others were asked to either leave the job and move on accordingly. So whereas we deployed 10,401, the project ran and concluded with 9,131. For these 9,131 people, ladies and gentlemen, the authority on a monthly basis was paying between 6 to 8 billion shillings in allowances for project staff. Now, this wage scale was never constant because the appointment letters of the project staff were very clear and meticulously written, indicating that every project staff would earn a lunch and transport allowance of 40,000 shillings. An indication it was for per day worked. So there was no such thing as salary on this project. It was an allowance to make it possible for you to afford transport, but also be able to have a lunch. And the rate was 40,000 shillings. So the rate of the wage bill kept oscillating because not all months had the same number of days, but also not all the project staff worked equally on a daily. Many project staff got pregnant along the way. In Wakiso alone, 18 project staff actually got pregnant and actually had to take days off. Others fell sick. Others, for reasons best known to them, were absconding from work. That indicated that the wage bill would not be the same for the project, but also more importantly, that these staff could not earn the same pay per month. So if I am a registration assistant in Buikwe, I could get 900, and maybe another in Zombo, or Gulu, or Kitgum is getting 600. That wage was computed based on number of days worked. So the complaints we continue to hear of people who are saying the people of Kabarole earned more than the people of Gulu are partly explained by this variance. These attendance lists are very available, upon which the computation of monthly wage was done. I also want to speak further to the idea that there are people who feel like they needed to be made permanent. And so it's important for us to understand the authority has got different types of contracts, and some are permanent, some were on this structure of the project. So when the project ended, the contract also ended. This is regardless of how much work Nira still has to do. There is an entitlement that's moving around of people feeling like because Nira still has a lot of work to do, they are indebted to us and therefore should keep us. Ladies and gentlemen, recruitment of this country does not operate like that. Not a chance. No. There are streamlined ways of how we recruit and how a budget is allocated. And so, for clarity's sake, I want to give you a snapshot and impression of what troubles we've had with payment in brief. You can imagine that out of the wage bill that oscillated between 6 and 8, we only have 1.5 billion of shillings that is owed to the authority. Only 1.5, if you count the whole period of the project, 8 months, only 1.5 billion is owed. And this money is owed for particular reasons. One of the reasons is that for some people, they submitted or opted to change payment accounts or payment numbers for numbers that sometimes were not in their names. Some people, either they had deactivated their accounts, or some people were even paid, but because they had a loan on their account, and the loan auto-deducted the money, and so when they say that salary or income has been paid, they did not find a credit, they raise the complaint that they have not been paid. But also there are payments that genuinely bounced because of the payment platforms. And if you have dealt with mass payment of such a big number of people, I know that these bounce payments are not alien to you. The process of rerunning these payments takes accounts to be able to check, verify, and audit to clear and confirm beyond reasonable doubt that the money did not actually reach the receiver. That process takes a bit of time, and ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you this morning that only 11% of the whole staff that we use for the project had a payment query, and not for the whole period, for select months. But I wish to reassure the country that even this 1.5 billion, the request has been processed and payment should be able to happen before the financial year closes. For avoidance of doubt, in northeastern Uganda, we only have 24 people. In midwestern Uganda, 235 people. In northwest, we only have 44 people. In western Uganda, 103 people. In central Uganda, 209, and in eastern Uganda, 439, a paltry percentage of the whole. But also, this brings me to speak to the issue of calls on how we are managing collection. Ladies and gentlemen, Nira, I call it a good problem because when registered people, now cards are beginning to come and feedback is coming, even when many people had a lot of doubting Thomas behavior in them, that what these people promise they are not bringing. We are actually giving you card. Our printer now is at 14,206,763. And therefore what this means is that our offices are flooded. They are flooded, but we do not have the manpower that matches that demand. In effect, what is happening is I want to give you a snapshot. Nira, on a typical day across the 146 offices, is issuing 70,000 cards. But Nira has only 418 permanent staff across the whole country. Of those 418, only 297 belong to operations, the department that handles the issuance of your card. What that means that one staff of Nira on a day serves 235 citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, how many jobs in this country serve 235 people on a day? Which organization has a staff that has that ratio? One staff to 235. That is the magnitude of the problem of Nira. It is easy to go to tweet and say, Nira, you're very inefficient, you're not giving me my card, because you're aloof with the reality of what is on ground. You're not advised about the manpower discrepancies that the authority is dealing with. So for us, whereas it is possible to keep doing the best, I encourage you countrymen, let's compare apples with apples. It is easy to compare me with the person who is handling drivers. It's easy to compare Nira with the person handling travelers. It's easy to compare me with the person handling a section of people that can afford a bank account. But you don't compare that to an authority that's dealing with the whole population. The illiterate, the educated, the sick, the lame, the pregnant, the weak, the suffering, the burdened. All these are the clients of Nira in our lines. You go to an office, pregnant mothers line up here. Or those with babies line up here. Elderly line up here. And the young people are saying, we didn't send you to grow old. You serve us in the order of first come, first serve. That balance. So as we continue to raise these issues and continue to speak to the leadership of the authority and say, poorly managed, not okay, this is the reality of the resource constraints that the authority deals with. But that notwithstanding, we are doing everything in our means to make sure you get your cards, and that's the good news I bring you. 70,000 cards, on an average, every staff managing a ratio of 1 to 235, I think we are doing a great job. Our prayer is that the resource basket can be increased to make it possible for us to issue these cards to you faster, in a more convenient way, at a parish level, by expanding the pass that comes to Nira to make this job possible. And so the people that are writing to many of our notable speakers in this country, telling them about Nira and the need to make them permanent, we want to give you jobs, but we can only cut our coat according to our cloth. This is our reality. When the budget is available and the resources available, we will do that. Finally, I want to speak about kits. Someone did make mention and said that there were no kits procured. I want to dispel that kind of information and confirm unequivocally, without fear of doubt or contradiction, that the authority procured 5,665 kits, and these kits were fully utilized in the project. And this information about kit utilization and the number of registrations per kit is available on request. Ladies and gentlemen, and members of the Fourth Estate, public information is available. Rather than seek to create, hysteria and mix truth with deceit, I would like to encourage you to reach out, ask for this information. We are happy to avail it, we are happy to clarify, and we are happy to explain the efforts we are taking to make sure that each one of you collects and obtains your national ID. I will then proceed to address this matter in Luganda. Mbatuusaako okulamusa enkya ya leero okuva mu kitongole kya National Identification and Registration Authority. Ekindeese enkya ya leero kwe kwongera okwogera nammwe bannayuganda bannaffe ku ebyo ebyava mu kuwandiisa abantu okw'ekikungu bwe twakola ku muluka oba ku mutendera gw'omuluka mu ggwanga lino. Eri abantu bangi abazze boogera ebigambo nga biyitaŋŋana ku mutimbagano ne mu mawulire ag'enjawulo, obaolyawo nga bateekawo okwebuuza ye biri bitya mu Nira, b'abantu baabawandiika oba baabawandiika baliwa, ate eryo n'abemulugunya nti mu kugaba endagamuntu ennyiriri mpanvu ate obuweereza butambula mpola. Enkya ya leero njagala okukakasa eggwanga nti bwe twatandikira okuwandiika abantu, regisita y'eggwanga ffenna mwe tulina okubeera ng'abannayuganda, etteeka eya Registration of Persons Act tukakatako yali ng'aliko abannayuganda 509 bokka. Naye nga kati we twogerera enkya ya leero engenda okujjira wano nga regisita y'eggwanga eriko abannayuganda 704 n'obutundutundu 9. Awo nno nze ndowooza eggwanga tuli sensete, twongedde okuwandiika abantu era abantu bangi tusobola okubanjula nga tukakasa bulungi nti Pawulo y'ono ate John y'ono nga tetubagasse. Mu kugaba obuweereza buno waliwo ensonga abantu ze bayagadde okutegeera ze bazze boogerako oba olyawo mu butamanya, nga nze enkya ya leero okwongera okubayamba okutegeera, okubannyonnyola, oba olyawo bwe baagala okutegeera banaategeera. Anti naye Abaganda bagamba nti embulirire tefa yonna, ate munnange tetujja kuwa kubabuulira kuba obuweereza bwa ggwanga ate n'ensente za muwi wa musolo. Kakati bwe twali tubawandiika twali twagendera ogamba nti tujja kukozesa abakozi 13,787 gye byaggweera nga tumaze okukola interview n'okunoonyereza twafunamu abakozi 1,401. Ku bakozi abo be twafuna abamu baasalawo ne bagamba nti weewaawo mutuwadde omulimu naye tetujja kujja, oba abamu baafuna omulimu bwe baatuukayo ne bibasobera ne bagamba nti guno nze sijja gusobola. Abalala bwe baatuuka eyo mwattu ne basimba Mungu n'abagabirira ne bafuna embuto, emirimu ne bagisuulawo, abalala ne balwala, abalala ne bagyekawo. Nga bwe kuli mu Uganda nti tulina free movement of factors of production, bw'ofuna akapya ng'otambula ng'ogenda. Twakakana nga tulina abakozi 9,131. Ku bakozi abo tuzze tubasasula mu projekiti eno wakati wa bilioni 6 ne bilioni 8 nga ze ssente Nira zesasula abakozi bano, nga tubadde tukozesa enkola eya projekiti kuba twalagaana nabo nti ojja tukolera tujja kuwa emitwalo 4 olunaku. Buli lunaku lw'okoze kati essente zino ze tubasabula zaali tezisobola kuba standard kuba si musaala, zaali ssente za projekiti. Twali tuddira ennaku z'okoze bwe tuzikebera ku logini ne tukakasa nti Pawulo yakoze ennaku 3 nga ze tukusasula, eyakolanga 15 nga tumuwa 15. So omusaala guno gwe twasasula nga tegwali standard kuba yali allowance. Twagerageranga ennaku z'okoze ne tukubisaamu emitwalo 4 ne tukusasula. Awo nno bano bakayunga nti ffe kayunga twafunye 8 ate ab'eggulu bafunye emitwalo 3. Kitegeeza abaggulu wali ennaku ze bataakola tebayinza kufuna ssente z'abeekayunga kuba abeekayunga bayinza okuba nga bayiwawo omubiri bo ne bagamba ne ku Sande tukoze. So baba bajja kufuna nnyingi kumwe abagambye nti ate ffe ku Sande tetwagala kukola tutya tetwagala kukola. So essente zaali tezisobola kwenkana. Kale abali abakuba empawa abagamba nti ffe baatuwanga ntono bali nnyingi, njagala okakasa nti ennaku ze wakola ozikakasa era ng'ennaku ezo ze twakusasulira. Ekiddako waliyo kyendagala oga nti newankubadde tusasudde bilioni 6 omwezi bilioni 6 ku 8 buli mwezi, batubanja bilioni 1.5 zokka. Obutundutundu butini bwe buti bo omwezi batusasula bilioni 8 oga nti projekiti yona emyezi 8 batubanja bilioni 1.5 zeno zezo si nnyingi. Ate nga nezima obutazisasula kyava ku ki? Essente bulijjo zibawusinga. Kyosobola okusasula omuntu essente system bwefunamu obuzibuzibu obutonotono essente nga zibawusinga. Mwatu bwe zibawusinga tetuddamu ne tuweerezaawo naawo. Tusooka kukakasa ne tunoonyereza ne tukebera ne tukakasa nti ddala essente zabawusinga. Ekyo nno kiyitamba auditor n'abantu abamanyi okwekenneenya ensonga ezo bwe bakebera ne bazuula nti tezagenda ate ne basobola okuziweereza Nira. Naye ng'okunoonyereza kuwedde essente zino tujja ziweereza era mbe bagumu nga baabulira ab'olugambo nti gavumenti bw'ogibanja oba kushuwa diiru nti ejja kusasula. Okunyaga eyo DNA tetugirinayo mu gavumenti, tuli basasuzi nno ddala. Naye ate mulimu n'abalimba emmoroto eri abatwale wa IGG ne bagamba nti twabasasula. IGG twagenda okunoonyereza ku bantu 6 abo mwattu nga babasasula. Nga babasasula naye nga balina zirooni ku ssimu zaabwe nga bawoza nti ffe tetwabawa musaala. Kale ne modulo eyo nabo gye bali nga bagamba temwatusasula ate ng'essente zaatuuka. So kyobula twetaaga okunoonyereza ne tusasula. Ensonga esembayo nti tulina namungi w'abantu mu ofiisi zaffe ez'enjawulo. Ate abamu mufuna entondo ne mufuna akasajja ku mutima ne munyiiga nti nakeddeyo ssaawa 2 naye nvuddeyo 8. Naye njagala kuwabula bwe nti Nira erina abakozi 418 mu ggwanga lyonna abakola mu disitulikiti 46. Onabire ekitegeeza buli disitulikiti ya Uganda erina abakozi ba Nira bameka? 3. Onabire ki? Kati disitulikiti erina population ya bameka? Erina milioni 5. Tuli abakozi bameka? 3. Kitegeeza kwaba abakozi ate mulimu abakola mu ndagamuntu nga bali mu department ega abakuba mulimu ne bali nga bakola gwa audit abo tebagaba ndagamuntu. Kaakati abakozi abo 209 be bagaba endagamuntu. Mu ebyo 209 nga twali ne director akulira abazigaba nti naye agaba. Ate nga kituufu kitagaba. Kati nga buli mukozi wa Nira alaba abantu 235 olunaku. Bannayuganda banna. Ebitongole bimeka ng'olina omukozi ng'akola ku bantu 235 mu bindage mu Uganda. nga bakola ku bantu 235. So njagala tube bagumu tukkirize nti mu ofiisi za Nira enyiriri zijja kubaayo. Ekyo saagala kubasuubiza bitaliiyo. Wabula kyembasaba nti bw'otuukayo kkiriza osimba olunyiriri olinde chansi yo. Bano abaagala ogenda ekasawo awowanira ekinyaanya njagala ojjukire nti enguzi ekwata babiri. Ateesa n'agikwata mwena mukola ki? Muzza musango. Awo ne bwe wajjawo oli ng'alina enkola eyo mwekubira enduulu mumuloope nti wuno ayagala gabanguzi enyiriri azikyankalanye. Naye twongera okusaba bakama baffe nti bw'oba owulidde omulanga gwaffe bwe tunaafuna bajeti tusaba nti batungire abakozi ate obuweereza buno tusobole okutambula obulungi tubutuuse ku levo y'omuluka. Ekisembayo kye kya kiiti eri abazi bagamba nti ebyuma tebaabigula oba oliawo tebiriiyo boogera ebyasamwasama tebigatta. Naye njagala kubagumya bwe nti twagula kiiti 15,665. Ekiiti zino zonna zaakola era bw'oba oyagala okwebuuza nti mumbulire buli kiiti yawandiika abantu bameka era yakolawa eyo information gyeri. Bw'oba ogyagala nnyo ng'erina kyekuyamba tuukirira Nira tujja gifuna twongere ogikuwa. Njagala okubagumya nti Nira ekyaliwo obuweereza bugenda mu maaso weewaawo namungi w'abantu gyali layini gyeziri naye tubeere bagumiikiriza ate oba oliawo akwata empola atuuka wala ffenna tujja kufuna endagamuntu. Neeyanziza nnyo neeyanziza.